You know, sometimes you just gotta accept that, you know, a lot people might just not like you. Not everybody, but that's okay. If you were liked by everybody, it would just be really boring. So what I'm trying to tell you is that don't be afraid to let your freak flag fly, no matter who it offends. I know that's like something John Waters might have said, but it holds up as great sage advice for being yourself, accepting yourself, and loving yourself. Now, with that being said, a lot of people want to argue about who the greatest guitar player is of all time. Some people say Tony Iommi. Some people say, what's his face from Led Zeppelin. Some people might say fucking Kurt Hammett from Metallica. I say you can all go to hell. It is not up for debate that Jimi Hendrix is the greatest guitar player of all time. It's not. There are too many, there's too big of a crossroads of occult energies streaming through each other at the same time to create the earth being that is known as Jimi Hendrix, okay? James Marshall Hendrix. His original name was Johnny until his mother left and his father changed it to Jimmy. Well, James. Jimmy just stuck as a nickname. He was playing a broom. He was living in the projects in Seattle. He had nothing. His grandmother, Nora Hendrix, is a southern transplant from Georgia who was Cherokee. Ended up on a reservation in fucking Vancouver. There are statues to Nora Hendrix, the black Cherokee woman in Vancouver, Canada. Okay? Now, this is what I mean by the the crossroads of all these different spiritual and energetic influences. Now, the name Hendrix is Irish. They're, you know, probably most black people have cracker blood in them, you know, because of slavery and that kind of shit. But I tell you what, so it's really interesting. I believe that I've always believed in this theory that I made up when I was 15 years old. Now that theory is, for all you nerds out there, all you spiritual blues nerds, you like the blues? You like what all of its manifestations? How rock and roll changed society, made people question authority, made drugs okay, made sex okay. The reason we're moving in the direction we are in as a society is because of rock and roll, okay? Now, people want to hate on rock and roll now because it's about, like, passion and, like, male energy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, fuck you. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this theory. I'll never back down off of this theory. But I truly believe that James Marshall Hendrix was reincarnated from Robert Johnson. Alright, now, there's some similarities right there. Robert Johnson was known to have Native American blood. He died in 1938. I believe July or August 1938. People thought that he sold his soul to the devil. Okay? He was quiet and shy, extremely talented. He could pick up anything and play it. He could hear anything and play it, repeated on a guitar. He hear songs on the radio, he was playing them that night in the club, okay? He would clean up, busking around the streets he'd take Johnny Shines or whoever he was with. He'd say, you go on one side of a bridge and I'll go on the other side of this bridge, and then we'll see how much we made at the end. And he would fucking clean up. Rode freight trains. He was a vagabond. He was a highway child. He couldn't stay still. He came back home to Mississippi and he died because somebody was jealous and gave him some juke joint owner, that's what it was sick of bluesmen hanging out. So He dissolved mothballs in his whiskey, not in order to kill him, just to make him sick so he'd go away. Now what he didn't know was Robert had some health conditions that he wasn't even fully aware of. So the mothballs weakened his immunities and allowed the shit to take over and kill him. 27 years old, the first 27 Club member, okay? The devil myth of rock and roll starts with Robert Johnson. Now, I do believe that his energy came back to life in the form of James Marshall Hendrix in 1942. It was floating around, waiting for the right body to go in because that karma wasn't finished cycling through yet. That genius, that African American genius, that voodoo child looking at the dark side. Now Jimi was I believe a even higher evolved form of what Robert Johnson was, middleweight potential. It was genius beginning to be unlocked. Now there are rumors that Robert played electric guitar, that he was playing electric guitar at the end of his life, and had a little band with a drum kit that said Robert Johnson on the front of it, on a kick drum. Now, fast forward to Jimi Hendrix. You got this shy, part Native American, complete and utter prodigy, effortless genius. He goes in the military. He's working his ass off on a chitlin circuit as a backup guy. Then he goes to the village and starts playing by himself and starts impressing all the folkies and the proto-hippies. And he's hanging out uptown in Harlem and meeting hot chicks and playing more chitlin gigs. Now, and then there's the military. And he meets his buddies, Buddy Miles and fucking Billy Cox. Lifelong buddies that he would always include in his projects because he's a nice guy. 27 years. And that was it. But it's more than just those small coincidences. There's a lot of spiritual background to it, you know? Listening to the influence of Muddy and Howlin' Wolf is as a child from his parents at house parties. Now that's a direct influence musically from Robert Johnson, because both of those people played with Robert Johnson or learned from Robert Johnson, or Son House, who taught Robert Johnson. Now what the hell is up with that? Son House outlived all of them. Alright, there's my blues rant for today. Have a good morning, y'all.